I've learned and utilizing the new week opening gaps and new day opening gaps, it's just like it's a walk in the park. But my only issue is my inability to work because of my medical condition is just I'm constantly, I get frustrated that I can't work, and I focus a lot on the money aspect and not just watching the price and trying to, just perform good. And when I am performing and when I'm not thinking about the money or I'm not stressing about the money and I'm, in a good mood, it's like last month I had my biggest win ever in trading, where I made about 45K with Top Step in about 3 weeks, and that was a complete game changer. So I just wanted to ask Michael um, if he had, or if he was in my position, what would he recommend I follow for like the next 30 days?
Well, I would look at what you are most successful with in the time of the day and focus on the one that you're excelling in and trying not to be so overzealous about every time. Just pick one that you've done the best in overall and then bloom there, focus there. Um, I love the idea that you have a simple model of attacking previous days' highs and lows because that is something that will never exhaust itself. It will never be able to hide that liquidity from you. They'll never be able to do that. And because now I've taught concepts of like the inversion fair value gap, even if you think a run above the previous day's high is likely to happen, if it does that, it could continue and keep going higher, obviously. But if you're watching that with the expectation of that unfolding, but it fails and breaks down, you can go right into the inversion fair value gap and use that to be short. So focusing on something just as simple as that and apply contrarian methodology when it's applicable, but running for the liquidity above old highs and or below old lows in a very specific time of day. Okay, if it's going to be New York session, you'll do fine. If you're doing London, you'll do fine. If you step away from those two, the the probabilities can shift considerably. They're the two largest. The most trading comes through those two times of the day. So if you focus on just those two, or preferably just one of those two, and look at your results, which one did you see the actual profit from? And try to fight the urge to do more than that. Because in trading, you're mastering the periods between trades, and the majority of your time is spent there. And if you try to fill in that space of time with more trading, the only thing you end up doing is create drawdown, create scar tissue, overtrade, and then it builds these toxic ideas that you should be participating more. And then when you go into drawdown, you have to participate more because you got to correct that issue. That's what goes on in your mind. So I would suggest that you do those things and see where that leads you.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. Helpful. The most recent teachings regarding the 930 first percentage fair value gap and the quadrants and the octants, that is just a absolute game changer. Even when I am trading the New York session, the last 3 days regular trading hours quadrants, they're actually getting used to the tick, and it's just amazing to see how you know you've been able to discover this and how it really works in the something that you've learned, and I can see, and I'm sure everybody else can see. And I'm really confident it's only a matter of time before really all of us really start to bloom, because it is very challenging at the moment. The past month, I think it's been very challenging for me. Maybe some other people can relate, just because of what's happening in office and stuff. But still, no excuse. Price is still moving algorithmically. There is more manual intervention, um, time distortion, and more high resisted liquidity runs than usual. Um, But what's one of your best advice for someone who can make money but keeps giving it back due to overtrading?
Don't make another trade after you profit for the day. Turn your computers off, do something else. Don't trade on Fridays if you're profitable.
Can I add something real quick, Alex, just to your point?
Sure thing, brother.
Um, if I'm trying to put myself kind of in your shoes, and I think when you have a lot of challenges off of the chart, I'm sure you're finding a lot of peace and solace on the chart. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I do try and take out my um, situation outside of trading, and I try and feel better or try and get a win or try to get a payout just to sort of fade away what's
Well, what
negative.
I what I would like you to do is, I mean, like, there's a real, and this is talked a lot about by Michael, but I would really like to see you try and focus on within the charts a meditative practice. Like, you need to try and find calmness and peace within the charts, within where you're at, because you're dealing with a lot. And we want to be able to disassociate with the performance while still finding a meditative peace. And I believe within just the conversation that you're having with us and some of the challenges that you're facing within your own personal life, that finding solace and or peace on the charts are good. You can do that. You could forward test a lot of models. You can acquire a lot of data, but that doesn't mean you need to overtrade. And what you need to discern is where and how you're in a laboratory versus where and how you're actually running your business. Because I believe with what you're telling us that you're going to continue to be able to pour yourself into and over the charts with what you're learning, with what you're applying, with what you're successfully able to see. But what you need to also be mindful of is, as you're winning and as you took the largest payout you've ever had in history, and as you're winning, that you need to find meditative peace in the charts. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah.
I heard
How
what you
does that
said
make
also. I heard what you said when you were before Kit came in and counseling with really good advice. You mentioned that you tend to take a exploration into the charts and try to remedy how you feel. You try to remedy everyday living, and your everyday living is met with a great deal more adversity than the average person. So it's reasonable to assume that that was going on. I didn't want to delve into the personal aspects, but people with chronic illnesses, disabilities, handicaps, it's even worse when they used to be 100% and they've been diminished because of something that was debilitating. They feel like they have to prove themselves worthy of some worth. And doing something well, like analysis, engagement with the market, executing with a model that you stay rigid to, and maintaining or at least aspiring to hold a measure of indifference. That's the goal. And when we look at price action, it is very much like a form of meditation. We are not trying to remedy our life problems, but we are trying to remind ourselves that that problem is not us, and that problem is not permanent. That problem is something that can be managed, but your ability to manage yourself in price action is a challenge, and that's what makes this very difficult. And it's very easy to find fault in everything outside of ourselves when we are going through a great deal of adversity, because we are in the process of consoling ourselves with the incorrect way of doing it. Oh, well, you lost money because those guys taught us something that didn't work. Or I traded this stuff and the broker screwed me. And we always look for this out to justify why we just didn't do it well, versus I'm going to look for an outcome that I don't care the outcome is favorable or not, because the model says this is something worth doing. And that model's been quantified, qualified that it's valid over time, collecting information around the utilization of that model and the essential tenets that go along with using it. What you use to get in, what you use to place your stop loss, when do you move your stop loss, where do you take a partial, when do you say, no, I'm not going to take a trade, even though it might look like it's there, I'm not going to execute again. And also having parameters and protocols that says, I've made money, I'm not allowed to go back in, regardless. And living well as a trader like that, managing yourself like that, that's excellence. That's success. The profitability is a derivative of doing that. But the goal shouldn't be profitability. The goal should be find a model that yields an outcome that's favorable and then bloom there and be indifferent to every individual transaction. And you'll never feel the desire to take your out in the real world things and come to the market like it's a god and say, please heal me of this pain. God of the market, please, I'm worshiping you right now. I'm at the altar of the buy and sell button, and I want all of this to go away. Please, please ease my pain. And that literally is why people fail, because they're treating the market as a god. They're treating the market as a genie in a bottle, as um, a, a fixer. When you're the fixer, the problems are yours. The market doesn't care that you have a disability. The market doesn't care that you have a wife that left you. The market doesn't care that you have an illness that you're ready to be found by going to the doctors, and now you're struck with fear about what the uncertainty is going to be and how this is going to impact your family. It does not care. So you need to have war with this market with the same measure of indifference. You have a weapon, you have a shield. You know what the job of that weapon is. You know what the job of that shield is. You're not demanding the shield do more than what it's supposed to do. And the weapon is not a tool to dig with, it's to do offense with. And you're focusing on a model using both of those procedures of defense and offense and having an indifference to the outcome. You don't care what the outcome is because more times than not, you may swing, you may use your weapon, and it may not be a death blow that allows you to take home something that is profitable. You may have to swing it again. You may have to parry and use your shield. That means you're taking a little bit of a hit. It means you got stopped out. It means you have a little bit of drawdown. But you're not going in there and saying, well, I missed that first swing. And then I took one with my shield. So let me go in there now and try to attack again. It might mean that you have to sit on the sidelines and not trade for that session again, or that day, or even week. Because what you're thinking as the catalyst that puts you into the trade, if it's a comeback story, if it's a revenge narrative, if it's a hero, main character type of persona that's putting you into the trade, and you got to be honest with yourself when you're doing these things. That's why keeping a journal is important. If you're trying to be the main character in a movie plot that isn't really being filmed, you're opening yourself up for terrible things to happen. Instead of a Rocky story, okay, it's a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and your ass is on the hook. So you don't want to be going through these things by your own hand.
Thank you so much for that.